Hello. I want to ask, how do you cope with stress and intense emotions and things that feel out of your control? I am curious, do you find yourself numbing, or that would be endlessly scrolling, staring at the TV? Do you find that you just bury it and ignore it? Or maybe you take it out on others. You get really short tempered and you bark out at people, or maybe you punish yourself through ways of coping that are just not super healthy for you. Well, if any of those sound familiar, then you should stick around to the end as I talk about some of the strategies, and one in particular that I added to my toolbox to help cope with stress and things that feel out of my control. I'm Erica, and I am your host of Powered by Joy podcast. And if you're someone who feels stuck, bored, frustrated, you just haven't felt alive in a while, and you just need some change in your life, and you don't want to do that and sacrifice your commitment to your loved ones, your family, and your friends, then you're in the right place, because we're here seeking joy. We're kind of on a quest to figure out more ways to bring it into our lives and have capacity for more of that. So stay tuned, and I'm going to share a story today, and it is about my childhood up to adult. We're going to be talking about tools to cope with stress. So I was mentioning above that there's lots of different ways we all choose to cope that we develop when we're children, and we don't have as many tools available to us. And when I was a child, I was known to disappear for endless hours if possible. And I would be off playing, making believe in the corner. Like there was a closet under our stairs, and I would go under there. And I remember making a whole little world and playing with my toys, and I'd make up stories. And sometimes I would go and pretend I was an author and write stories on a typewriter. Like I really was able to process things. So if I was bored or lonely, or maybe felt sad or whatever it was, or my sisters were gone at school, or I would just go play. And I would use my imagination. So as I got older, let's say, able to go and like maybe run to the store, or I got my license and had more ability to choose different ways of coping, so tools, I developed a passionate relationship with sweets, especially chocolate, and especially M&Ms. Yes, I loved M&Ms. They're very convenient to munch on and kind of shift what I was thinking and focusing on, and it provided a great tool for me at that time. And that morphed into a way to reward myself when, let's say, maybe I felt like I had a hard day, or maybe I was at work. Oh my goodness. When I worked at the bank, I literally had a drawer. Anybody who knew me knew I had a drawer to my left that was full of sweets. Super good when you're pregnant, right? But I had always had sweets available to me, and I just munched. So it was really accessible way to comfort myself. And it definitely became a tool to use, whether it was that I was upset, frustrated, stressed, or overwhelmed in any way, or tired, right? And it just was a very acceptable way of coping. So I definitely feel like most people, we don't have as many tools when we're younger, and it takes time to develop them. But hopefully some of these videos that I put out help people that maybe haven't come across these ideas and tools to get more tools in their toolbox, so that you don't find yourself sitting and binging Netflix, or scrolling endlessly, or eating a large plate of comfort food that you regret later. Maybe you're eating foods that just tear up your stomach later. I've never done that. And then regret it later. So, we definitely shift the tools we use as we get older. So fast forward another decade or so, well, let's just say now, I have now gone through a lot of years of coaching, and that would be numerous coaches, but also I put myself through and attended the Mastery University for Tony Robbins. So that was a lot of inner work and learning a lot of tools that I did not have, trying to gain more tools. But that does not mean that food and sweets haven't stood the test of time. You're going to have to bear with Shelby. He keeps walking it out of the office. It's just how it is, right? So anyways, I purposely went and got these tools because I was aware that I didn't have them. So I have more tools, and it also taught me how to be more aware when I was reaching for and not using my more healthy tools. And so, like I said, having sweets stand the test of time, when I find myself under a lot of stress, particularly when it's really intense, I definitely find myself reverting back to that, and I will mindlessly just be reaching for some sort of sugary snack or maybe a tasty adult beverage, and then later I'm like, oh wait, why did I do that, right? And so then I regret it later because I had a commitment to myself to not do that, or, I didn't want to have more sugar than what's already in our foods naturally. So, trying to not get disappointed. But what I did learn is by doing these classes and coaching, it helped speed up helped my awareness of it, and helped me set intentions to be aware of when I was doing it so that I could make a choice. So yes, there are times where I still make that choice to partake in things that maybe aren't as healthy for me, or scroll endlessly on social media or whatever the thing is. But we can actually make a choice from, when we're aware and we're like, yeah, I'm having, this is what I'm going to have, or this is what I'm going to do to cope with my stress right now. We can actually make a really shitty choice for ourselves coming from a really empowered place. It's just kind of hard to think of it that way, but it's true. You can be like, I just had the shittiest day and I did so good. Or maybe you're like, I accomplished so much and you're tired and you're like, yeah, so then I go reach for the treat, right? So we can be really empowered in making a choice that isn't our healthiest choice. But that comes from being aware and going, oh, and noticing, okay, I'm reaching for the thing. I'm going to my phone and going, oh, I'm doing that. I'm trying to numb myself or ignore the problem or ignore my feelings or not feeling the feels, and then making a choice to do something different. So we have to set that intention, right? Of, okay, I'm doing that thing where I'm reaching, I'm not wanting to do this, I don't want to feel my feels, or just I need to process and get this stress out of my body. Well, there's lots of ways to do it, but this episode is about focusing on one tool that I found is really important, especially when I'm feeling worry or stress over things that I feel are kind of out of my control. And, maybe it's about things that you see other people doing, or maybe it's around business, or maybe it's around your health, or we do have control over our health, but like sometimes we're not seeing the results we want, so then we're stressed about it. Lots of things that can bring on that stress and make us feel like we don't have control of things in our lives. And so this is where we develop that awareness, set that intention of being, oh, I'm aware. So the tools I gained helped me just with that quicker awareness. Now, when I look back over the times that I felt stress and I chose a healthier coping tool, I never felt that self-regret, that self-criticism. Did I say self-regret? Seriously, self-criticism or regret after the fact. And there's that loop that happens when you're like, okay, I'm going to do this and take care of myself today. And then you don't do it. And so then the next day you're like, oh, I never do the thing. I don't stick to my commitment. I didn't do it again. It's another day. I got to start over again. And there's this loop of criticism we get into, right? But when I look back at the times that I chose healthier coping mechanisms, such as feeling my feelings or going out and doing other things that I'm going to talk about, I didn't have that next day regret or hours later regret. And one of the tools that stands out for me is going to play and experience joy just for my own pleasure and for my own happiness and peace. Going out to play, using our imagination to figure out like what would feel so good to me right now that has nothing to do with anything going on in my life. What is something I can squeeze into my day today that I can just step over there and just be in that place of joy and just not be in that place. So there is a process to that for sure, but it is also a practice that we have to get in comfortable with. So here's another example from my life I'll share. So back when I was a single mom, like there were a lot of things I had on my plate, a lot of stresses. I struggled with some depression. I was feeling just a lot of fear around my finances and things. And so I did not want to sit in that place with the boys around. And so one of the ways I coped was we would go out in the evenings and we rode bikes all around, and I rode with them all the time. And another thing we would do is we just stand outside throwing the football for, I feel like it was hours, but we just sit out there playing ball. Like we would go out and do something physical and playful, and it got that energy on me, and I just would be really present because I knew that those years would pass and I would never get those days and times and hours back. So I'm not going to go spend that inside just wallowing in it when I can go just step out of the stress, choose to just go over here, be present, I'm throwing the ball, I'm laughing with my kid, just like trying to, sometimes it took a few minutes to get me out of that space, but eventually I'm out there playing with them and being physical, and there would be something funny that would happen. And the physical movement and activity also definitely helped me like move the stress out of my body. It is a powerful tool to move your body, and doing it in a way of play. Games like sports and things like that are such a helpful tool. I just can't encourage you enough to find ways to play that include moving your body. So those were ways that I would choose. So another thing that I do is if they were at their dad's on the weekends, instead of sitting and missing them intensely, I would go and draw a bath and I would put on music, I would light candles, and I would put on, not put on, I already said I put on music, but I would have all that, and then I would get a book and I would just read till the water got cold, and it felt like such a luxurious, spoiled thing to do. And we don't always have a ton of time when we still have kids in our lives in our house. But that was a way healthier tool for me, because I came away feeling relaxed and like I had spoiled myself, which is something I hadn't had a lot of opportunity to do when I had 3 kids running around the house before that. So instead of missing them, which I still did, I thought, you know what, this is a time I get to have that I've not had before, and I'm just gonna take care of myself and pamper myself instead of just pouting that I didn't have access to play and hanging out with my kids. So those are a couple examples that were me using healthier tools to choose joy and play and my imagination and movement to deal with my stress and negative emotions that were swirling around. And it really was a powerful tool that helped me stay out of that deep, heavy place. And there could have been other tools that I used that were less healthy, like eating. There wasn't as much the social media thing as much then, but there's plenty of things I could have been doing otherwise. So it took it really did take choosing to be present in the moment. And another piece of it was when I finally got into that place of play or pleasure, making a moment to have gratitude in some way. And I have episodes on how to shift from negative to positive thinking that talk about how to like shift from a negative thought to a more believable, loving based thought instead of a fear based thought. And so I want to make sure you check those out if that's something you struggle with. But when we finally get to that place of being present, and let's say I'm in the bath, I could have been like, oh man, I really missed the boys. And now I'm shifting to like, wow, I get the chance to relax and take care of myself for the first time. And then the next thought I could say is, you know what? I'm grateful that I am getting some free time that I have needed for years to really just love on myself. So I'm going to be grateful for this time. And then when they're here, I'm going to be really fucking present with them because I miss them. But I'm so grateful for this time to take care of me. So that can really help soothe us when we're in a time of deep stress and anxiety, trying to shift that thinking over and finding something to be grateful for. It's proven that you cannot be in a place of gratitude and fear at the same time. I learned that one from Tony Robbins too. So he was talking about like when you're in that place, unless you're running from a tiger, you should stop, pause, and like get yourself shifted from that negative, fearful thought over to a love-based thought and gratitude. That is very powerful. So what we're going to do next is talk about what questions. I have a few questions I want you to ask yourself when you're in that place where you're feeling a lot of stress, things feel out of control, and you're just like, a lot of tension build up in you, okay? And I want you to ask yourself, so maybe someone you're trying to deal with is just being a total asshole, and you're just like, what the? You need them to cooperate with you over something, and you're like, okay. And you're just, instead of going and like bitching about it and like just focusing on that, just pausing, get yourself to your own place. And I want you to ask this question: what is it about this situation that I can control? How can I choose to perceive this situation in a way that I can see what I have control over and perceive how I feel about it right now? Because we ultimately only have control of how we feel, like our attitude and how we feel about something that we're experiencing. We can't always control our outside circumstances. I know you're probably surprised by that, but it's true. So that question is, okay, this all doesn't feel good, but what do I have the ability to control about this moment right now? And that usually has to do with your feelings. And so it's going within and figuring out how to get that shifted, right? Okay, so let me just check my notes to make sure I didn't miss the next question. So the next question, I like to kind of call it like the magic shift question, because that's where the magic lies when we try to look for a way to shift ourselves, right? So we've looked at what we can control. Like I said, it usually has to do with our reaction and our emotions about what's going on is what we have control over. Shelby's particularly active today. And then the next question we want to do is ask, what is one thing I can do right now that will bring me joy, pleasure, peace, or happiness? What's one thing I can do today at some point that is going to bring me joy, pleasure, happiness, or peace? Okay, that's our magic question. And that's where we tap into that imagination, guys, and think about it like, oh, if I had my choice and I had endless time or endless supply, like what would the thing be? Okay, that just gets you in your imagination, but then you can really start to go, okay, so XYZ's happened and I don't have control, but you know what? I love taking my dog for a walk. So that will get me at least shifted to a more peaceful place. So when I get home from work, I'm going to take my dog for a walk all by myself. I'm going to put some music in my ears and I'm going to go along my merry way. So that is, making a choice, a magic shift out of that stress place to choose to put our focus elsewhere and just release that thing, step away from it. And depending on your beliefs, oftentimes, there's a lot of us that have the belief that there is a higher power, and you can say, okay, I'm just gonna give this to you and I'm gonna go for a walk and just forget about it for a little bit. I'm gonna put my blinders on, pretend all the rest of the bullshit going on in my life doesn't exist, and I go walk that dog. I'm gonna notice the flowers or the sky and the fresh air and the breeze on my face, and I'm just gonna be so present in that. And then when I'm out there, I'm going to look for something to feel gratitude about. And let me tell you, it will change the chemistry in your body because you're shifting, because every thought creates hormones that release in our body. We're a big chemistry machine. So when we choose those thoughts, it literally shifts everything in our body. And so it's so powerful to come in and make that choice for ourselves to shift what we're focusing on and going, I've got to take that 5 minutes. It might be that you're hiding in your closet just taking some deep breath into your belly, and all you do is say, I'm thankful I'm alive to take this breath in today. It might just be that. That might be all the time you have, but you took time, and it will build that muscle, right, of taking that moment for yourself. And so I just want to encourage you to ask that magic question of what's one thing I can do, right now or today, that will shift me into more joy, pleasure, peace, and happiness. Okay. So today it might be that I choose to go sit out on the patio and do a puzzle, or tomorrow it might be that I go for a motorcycle ride. And then the other choices would be, like I said, taking a bath, reading a book, journaling, maybe you have an orgasm, whatever that thing is that's just going to reset and put you in a different place. There's lots of endless choices. We're going to have a part 2 to this, and we're going to dive more into what you can choose to do for play and joy. And so that will be a fun thing to touch on. But, for us, it's all about just finding that way to just step out. So I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit. So let's move on. So the last question, just check my notes here, is does this activity that's going to bring you joy and pleasure, does it honor your desires and not cause you to have any self-criticism or judgment or regret after the fact? So use it as a filter. Is the activity that I'm going to choose to do in my highest and best interest? Is it something that may or may, is it going to cause any regret or self-criticism? And if the answer is yes, it's going to cause me some regret, you might take that pause and try one other activity that feels a little healthier first. And then if it's a yes, then go for it. Because like I said, I just can't think of a time I look back and regret that I worked out, or I went for a walk, or I went and played with my grandkids. Like I just can't think of a time that I regretted those choices. I can think of times where I overate and I deeply regret it. I remember having too many glasses of wine. I deeply regretted it the next morning when I had a headache, right? Like there's lots of, or just that the whole day slides by and all you've done is stare at your phone and you haven't connected with anybody and felt alive. Like, blah, Groundhog's Day already, right? So that last question is important too. So we have 3 questions we're going to focus on, and I just want to touch on all of them again real quick, okay? So let's review the questions that you're going to use as a way to change up the way you cope with your stress and intense or negative emotions, okay? So first one is our grounding awareness. So 1, what do I have control of right now in this moment or today? And my hint to you is that the answer is pretty much the same. It's how we respond and how we choose to perceive it and our emotions. But I still use it as it's bringing awareness. What do I have control of it today and in this moment? And it just gets you in that, oh yeah, okay, here we are. I need to check in with my emotions, okay? The second question, my magic shift question, I like to think of it that way because that's where we start to get a shift possible. We're starting to move over and use our imagination. And so the question is, does this, my bad. Okay. The magic question is, what is one thing I can do right now or today that brings me pleasure, joy, happiness, or peace? Okay, so that's our second question. Now, the last one is our clarity for the outcome we want, okay? And that is, does this activity bring me joy and pleasure? And is it for my highest and best interest? Or is it a choice that is going to bring me, disappointment with myself afterwards? So what I want you to do is know that these questions help you take your power back. We get empowered to choose to have joy even in the midst of stress and things feeling out of control in our lives, that we can find joy. And sometimes the joy is pretty small. Like I said, maybe it's petting your dog, maybe it's a smile from a stranger, maybe it's you just sit outside at a park. But we have to take that pause and honor that and explore jumping into that joy to cope with the stress. Okay, so it sounds so ironic. You're like, I'm stressed. How am I supposed to feel joy? Well, choosing to get present and shift and do an activity that brings you joy is how you help yourself cope. Okay, so I love the thought of people realizing that even in the midst of feeling like life is maybe stressful or out of control, that we actually have a lot of power over our experience and how we're experiencing the situation or our day and our emotions. And one of the things, another one from Tony Robbins, is he talks about your motion creates emotion, right? So when you put yourself in motion, it shifts. So I could be feeling like, oh, I'm so tired right now. Oh, I just don't feel good, or I just don't have energy to do anything. And then he showed us how, like, if we get up and you put on music and you just start jumping, dancing, yelling, woo, yeah, just like going nuts, like your body shifts and you could go sit right back down and you feel completely different. It's like when you're tired and it's the end of the week and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and watch it. And let's just say your best friend you haven't gotten to see in a month shows up at your door. Bam! All of a sudden you're just lit up. You got energy. You stay up till 2 a.m. talking. Wow, where did all that energy come from? We made a shift. You chose to be present. You shifted to something that was bringing you joy. And so all of a sudden that fatigue and tiredness just, whoop, we have that much power to shift. We just don't tap into it, right? So I just wanted to talk about that because sometimes I think we feel really stuck and helpless, and it feels so counterintuitive to think, oh, I'm going to go feel joy or play right now when we just aren't feeling it. But sometimes we just got to make ourselves do it, because once we do it, the shift happens and we feel better. And you're like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that helped me a little bit. And then all of a sudden there might be a little gratitude that creeps in. That's what we're looking for. So those are some powerful questions. And this is a way for you to take that power back when you're feeling out of control. You have the ability to control our emotions. We aren't our emotions. I've talked about that before too. So in the episode, I'm trying to think, it was episode 21 about negative thoughts and how if you need extra help kind of shifting from that negative thought over to positive and the gratitude, I encourage you to go revisit that episode or listen to it for the first time if you haven't caught it. If that's something like you're really like, oh, I have a hard time shifting my thinking, but little secret, go play and just get out of the situation and see if you can make some progress with that idea. When I choose play, I am winning. No, actually, when I choose play, even one, let's say I show up in that situation of stress and I do it better by 1%, I choose a better tool of fun and play 1% better this time. Remember, that expands our capacity for joy, and our ability to go to it quicker. It becomes easier and easier. And we all want to have more joy, right? We all want to have the capacity for more joy and be quicker to get to joy. And it comes from that awareness and intention, asking the questions. Oh, what do I have control of? Going through the 3 questions. And when I talk to you next week, I have part 2, and I'm excited to talk about some specific ways to apply joy based on your personality and kind of how you function and what energy you bring into the world. So it's going to be a little bit of fun. And I love sharing ideas and thought processes around joy. And so I'm excited for you to join and listen to that. And we all need a little bit more joy in our lives. We need to help share it a little bit more. We all need to get more comfortable with joy. It can be uncomfortable. It can be scary. We can feel unworthy of it. And so we're practicing with these questions and awareness and intention and a little bit of gratitude. And so if this is something that you really find yourself struggling with, I encourage you to stay tuned in to next week for more ideas. I also am happy to book a one-on-one with you if you want to dive further into this and get a little bit more personalized ideas of how to kind of work around this concept of having more joy in your life. If you are somebody who struggles with really, with depression or any other, mental struggles, emotional struggles, I am not a professional, so I'm always going to encourage you to go seek professional help. I am not a professional and I'm not a doctor. These are things that I've just found that have been useful tools in my experience as a woman and a mom and a sister and a business owner. These are tools I've just been using over the years. So, like I said, seek a professional help if you really feel like you're having a hard time. I'm available for tuning in to like helping you dial in this process if that's something you're interested in. So I thank you for joining me. Hope you found this helpful. I'll see you next week for part 2 and have a great week. I hope that you seek some joy and find a way to play when you feel some stress this week. That's my challenge to you. All right, have a great week.